Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. I hope you're doing all okay. I've got Adam back on with me. We're going back-to-back offensive linemen. We had Rashawn Slater. We talked to Fernando about him going to the Chargers. We have a returning Mike Obermuller. He is joining us once again to talk about the New York Jets. A fantastic job he did last time. Talking about Zach Wilson, the most viewed video we've had on YouTube so far, 621 views in 4 weeks, which is fantastic. And we really appreciate your help here, Mike. You've been so fantastic for us. You're one of the two leading digital reporters now at Heavy on Jets with Heavy.com. And obviously you still contribute to Kings Fantasy Sports, but that's a new job you've got since the last time we spoke. How's that been going? Has it been fun reporting on the Jets day in, day out?
Yeah, it's a dream. I got this position. I wasn't expecting to land something like this, but basically obsessed with the Jets. So as you can imagine, writing about them every day is what I love to do, and I'm happy to keep doing it, hopefully.
Well, I've long may it continue. We're big supporters of you, and hopefully, me and Adam will be one day doing this permanently. Maybe just sitting down doing podcasts all day. That would be the dream for both me and him. I can imagine.
I think you guys are get on the right track towards that. I think you guys are on the right track.
I think we're on the train. I don't know if the track's going to Moneytown, but
it's a long track.
It's a long track. Yeah, tell me about it. It's a one-way ticket, and it's taking its time. But thank you for joining us once again. We're going to be talking about obviously the pick of Alijah Vera-Tucker. You moved up to go and get him with the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, Zach Wilson was the money pick there at number 2. You go and pick him. You've got the quarterback of the future. You're all very happy as the Jets fans. And then suddenly the Jets logo pops up again at that spot. And what's going through your mind, Mike, when you see you guys move up? And then what went through your mind when Alijah Vera-Tucker's name was read out?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Damon, because he was sitting next to me, and he's a huge Jets fan too. And he's calling it before it even happens. He's like, we need to get Alijah Vera-Tucker. This is even before the Vikings pick goes on the clock. And, I'm all for it because I love O-line. I'm a big offensive line guy. And when we saw that trade happen, we knew right away. We were like, it's AVT. AVT's coming to the Jets. And honestly, we were probably more amped up about that than Zach Wilson. And that's no slight on Wilson as a player. That's just, we all expected that to happen for so long that was the pick we knew. We knew it's going to be Wilson pretty much. Maybe 5 to 10% chance it would have been Justin Fields or something like that. But we knew that was going to be Wilson pretty much. So that second pick in the first round for a lot of Jets fans was the one that was, what's this going to be? Where are we going to go with it? And, once we realized we might have an all-pro caliber left guard, we were amped up.
I mean, what was it that you like you say, he looks like a really good player. What was it that has impressed you the most during his time at USC, and why you were the whole fan base was so amped up to get him?
Number one thing for me is versatility with him. He's the type of lineman, he switched around a lot at USC, and you don't see that a lot with young linemen coming into the league where they already know how to play multiple positions at a high level. Another good example for Jets fans is Cameron Clark, we drafted in 2020. And a lot of people immediately thought, all right, he can kick into left guard, no problem. And it's been an adjustment for him. It's been a learning period, and it hasn't really worked out, at least so far, the way people thought it might. So just the fact that he can play left guard, and then he also played left tackle at USC, and he won the Morris Trophy in 2020, which is the best lineman in the Pac-12. So he can do. He also played right guard for a little bit too. So he can do all three at a high level, and that's just something you want, because the Jets, if an injury occurs, he might have to switch to left tackle. Let's say Becton goes down, or he might have to go to right guard if the Jets can't figure out the right guard and they have to kind of finagle something. So that versatility to me is huge, and that's what I love.
He has been seen as well. He's been quoted, and I think it's believable, and we believe it here at the Franchise Tag. But he is the best guard in the 2021 draft, and maybe even even the most flexible of offensive linemen to be drafted, that he can play so many spots on that offensive line. Like you said, with Mekhi Becton playing at that left tackle spot and being a very good player, had a very good first year, and is going to have a very bright future in New York. How do you think if let's say he plays left guard, I suspect maybe he might go right guard, but if he lines up next to Becton, I mean, do you think that's going to really work, that tandem there? Obviously, on that quarterback's blind side, especially for Zach Wilson, your new quarterback, he's going to need good, offensive, strong linemen to be able to protect him and keep him upright.
Yeah, I think the plan is definitely for him to be the left guard, and you build that left side, blind side wall. Like you said, Freddie, lately I have been thinking that there's a chance that if this doesn't work out on the right side with some of these veterans we have over there, like Greg Van Roten and Alex Lewis and a couple of these guys, or even Dan Feeney or some of the younger guys, Cameron Clark I mentioned earlier, Tristan Hoge. We got a few guys that could play at right guard, but if none of them really work out, and let's say Alex Lewis, for example, who's more of a left guard, if he just feels more comfortable on that side and he ends up being the best five, we always hear Douglas talk about best five linemen will play. If it ends up being Lewis at left guard and Alijah Vera-Tucker at right guard, I could see that being a possibility. But I do think the plan is build that left side, have Zach Wilson protected. Darnold was under siege a lot. We've seen different quarterbacks come through here under siege in the last decade. So, that's definitely the goal. And I definitely think they want them next to each other. Becton even said today in a press conference that he wants to be lined up next to him. He called him a dog. So, Brian Baldinger in an interview or in a spot on TV called them the Bash Bros. That's his nickname for them already. So a lot of people want to see them together. But we'll see. If the Jets can't figure out a way to make it work, sometimes it is good to spread out your talent. So, in that, if they spread it out in that sense, AVT could help a guy like George Fant on the right side and help him secure that right side too. So we'll see how they go with it. But yeah, to answer your question, I think the plan is Becton AVT for the next 10 years, together, hopefully. And that's what Joe Douglas
and Zach Wilson, you would hope as well.
Yeah, and yes, of course, and Zach Wilson, yeah.
I think it'll certainly be it'd be really exciting to see, them two together, what they can do and how good they can be. I mean, we've spoken about his versatility and the strengths that he has. I mean, are there any weaknesses that you feel that he does have, and when it comes to coming into the NFL?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a few, and it's tough. Like I was really high on this pick. The more I looked into him, I knew about him before the draft, but the more I even looked into him once he became a Jet, there's very few things that I have faults with him. Like when you guys asked me about Zach Wilson, first time I came on with you guys, there were some things to talk about for weaknesses, just because of some of his situation coming out of college. But to me, everything I've seen, the mindset he's had, he's out there at games with Wilson, with some of these other rookies. He's going on triple dates with them. So he seems like he's got the right mindset. I've heard him speak. He seems like a leader. He's strong. They say he's great pass protection from everything I've seen. That's accurate. Even in run game, they say his lateral movement is great, which is what Mike LaFleur likes to do. He likes to run the ball out wide. He likes to have guys that can move laterally. So I'm having a hard time. I don't want to sound like a homer, but I'm having a hard time finding a huge deficit with AVT. And I think that's part of why I'm so pumped up about this pick, because I'm not seeing any faults.
I think the jury's definitely making you guilty of being a bit of a homer, Mike. Only a little bit, though.
Hey, sometimes you got to do it,
Oh yeah, of course.
He does come across as though he is the real deal, though. In his time that he had at USC, you could see how good he really was, and you do sort of think to yourself, it's this is someone who can slot in and make a difference really quickly. So, hopefully for your sake, he will.
I mean, and I'll just give you something. Obviously, he's got great strength, but you want to see that strength against NFL talent. So if there was one thing that I'll give you, it's just that, rookie O linemen do usually need, unless you're Mekhi Becton just throwing people around his rookie year, you do usually need to bulk up a little bit just because you're facing guys like Aaron Donald sometimes, and that's insane. But that's maybe the one thing, just working his way into that pro body, even though he's a big, strong guy, it still takes time to work into that.
Obviously, you were very aggressive in your move to go up in the draft to go and get AVT and to trade with the Vikings. I mean, I've got it here that you traded your first round pick, the 23rd pick, and 2 third rounders to the Vikings to get the 14th and a 4th rounder. Did you suspect as the draft kept going on that the Jets might be aggressive again and maybe push, into that 30 spot maybe, or into the 32 spot? Because you went and got 2 really franchise players of the future on the offensive side of the ball. Did you ever suspect that maybe you might go back up again and maybe it'd be a quarterback or an edge rusher? Because there was plenty of them left on the board and plenty of very, very good ones that could be with your franchise for the next 10 years. I've just meaning that the 2 first picks were obviously offensively focused. Did you think the Jets would be aggressive again in going up to get maybe a defensive guy of the future?
Yeah, no, to be honest, once they traded up that first time, and that actually, a lot of people criticized that. I didn't think that was something where they gave up too much. I mean, you swap first rounders. I think they moved up like 7 or 8 spots. Can't remember off the top of my head, but they only ended up swapping a 3rd and a 4th and then giving up a 3rd. So when you consider how many of these thirds, miss for so many franchises, I really didn't think that was a big deal. But back to the question. No, I didn't think he'd move up again. Douglas did say he was going to be aggressive in moving up if he wanted to in this draft because he had the extra picks. But I actually thought he might move down with that early 2nd round pick. We've seen Douglas move down in the past, like in 2020 when Denzel Mims was on the board. He moved down later in that 2nd, and then he ended up actually getting Mims anyway. But he was ready to move down for more picks. I thought they might move down with that early 2nd. I think at the end of the day, though, they saw Elijah Moore as somebody as that they couldn't pass up on, that they thought would be a first-round talent for sure. So when he was there, I think Douglas maybe even changed his opinion on whether or not he'd consider trading down for more picks, and he was just like, I got to take Elijah Moore. This guy's a can't-miss prospect. And so far, I mean, we've seen that in OTAs and minicamp. Elijah Moore, I'm not sure, if you guys following the Jets as closely as I am, but for the Jets fans, they know Elijah Moore's been making diving catches every day in camp, and he's been lighting it up more so than anybody else maybe in the league right now in terms of rookies. So definitely remember that name.
So your first 4 picks were Wilson, Vera Tucker, Elijah Moore,
and then
Michael Carter.
Yeah, so four offensive players. Yeah. And so looks to be 4 good ones. I mean, we'll see. I don't want to jinx anything, but looks to be 4 good offensive players.
I do wonder if maybe the criticism that was received about the trading up, whether it was because the Vikings still managed to take Darius, or there was a lot of talk because one of the a big question was something that to ask you is, I mean, do you think that Vera Tucker is what was the strongest defensive lineman to come out of that draft? Because you could have stayed where you were and potentially got Darius. I know it's a slightly different player, but I think maybe that might be where some of the criticism might have come from.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of was he the best offensive lineman in the entire draft, I would have to say no, just because I think Penei Sewell was. Yeah. And you could even say Rashawn Slater, possibly is right there with Alijah Vera-Tucker after Sewell. I mean, Slater got picked first, obviously, and I think you probably have to give him the slight edge. But I think Vera-Tucker's right there with Slater. I didn't think Darius Shaw was in the same level as those 2 guys and Sewell. Obviously, Douglas I think, determined that as well, because we saw him when he made the pick. He was like jumping up and down, high-fiving people, pump fisting. So, it seemed to me like Douglas really wanted AVT. That was his guy. I don't think he makes that move, and they're making some like Jets documentary, and they keep showing like previews for it, and like the main trailer that they show is a behind the scenes look at when they're making that pick for AVT. For whatever reason, that's like the main trailer that they've been choosing for this like off-season documentary, and all the scouts are talking it over, and they're basically, it's clear that they're talking about Alijah Vera-Tucker, and they're basically saying like, do you think he'll be there at 23? And they all pretty much come to the consensus, no, we're going to have to trade up to get him. So, if they're talking about him like that, I think it's clear, for better or for worse, that he was their guy. Not to say Darashaw is a bad player or anything like that, but I think, as we mentioned, that lateral athleticism and just the versatility and different things like that, I think highlighted AVT as the guy the Jets thought fit their system the best, with Michael Floor and with some of the holes they have. So, I would say for the guys that were still on the board, yes, he was the best one left available. But obviously, I'll still say Penei Sewell, number one. I mean, he's a beast.
I think the whole thing of it, of going like, well, the Vikings trade down and still got Darashaw, probably would have picked him there anyway. There's a lot of people in NFL world, in the media, us guys, I suppose, that term the winners and losers of trades or draft night trade, the winners and losers. I don't think there is a loser in this one. Like, I really don't. And I've known people, and like Adam said, people have been critical of the Jets moving up because you gave up that. You could have got still a good offensive lineman down there. But like you so accurately put, they wanted their guy, Alijah Vera-Tucker. They said they were going to be aggressive, and they didn't give up that much to go and get there. I don't think that, picks-wise, you gave up that much. I think it was actually perfect business by the Jets, which isn't always a common thing for people to say about the Jets. But it was good business by the Jets. And it is. It certainly is changing. And it was also, but it was astute by the Vikings to go, well, what do we need? We can go down there and be confident that a guy will drop to them, or their guy that they wanted, that may have been Christian Darashaw at the time, will be there anyway. So I think this is a win-win scenario. And I think it's really stupid of people to think that the Jets lost or gave up too much in this, because like we've just said, you've then got the next two picks, who were Elijah Moore and Michael Carter, who are two fantastic picks as well. Like you said, Elijah Moore is looking very good in the OTAs there. Michael Carter, I've not heard reports on him yet, but I'm sure you know more about what's going on with him, Mike. But I think that the Jets have done really well in this draft, and Alijah Vera-Tucker is also the smart pick. That's what I like about it more. And is that what the Jets feel as well? Is that if you'd moved up and gone cornerback, let's say, or a flashy wide receiver or anyone like that, but you went for Alijah Vera-Tucker, a solid guy who's clearly going to be a very good NFL player, was it the feeling amongst the Jets that, yeah, this was actually a smart move?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's the feeling amongst most Jets fans. You never know. Like, some fans they want to see, certain positions, skill positions, things of that nature. I always like offensive linemen. So for me, yes, it was the smart pick. One guy that I was looking at, though, just to play devil's advocate at that 23, was either Greg Newsome or Caleb Farley. So if I ask myself, they don't make the trade and then they end up taking Greg Newsome, let's say, is that a move that we end up looking back as and saying, it was worth that Jamal Adams pick, because that's basically what it was, the first of two Jamal Adams picks. So when I think about it like that, there's a lot more question marks with a guy like Newsome or Farley, and that's nothing to do with them. It's just the cornerback position is all over the map. Sometimes we see some pretty high busts come in through there, and a guy like AVT just comes so highly regarded from so many different people that, like you said, Freddie, it is sort of the safe pick. So honestly, even though it was a safe pick, I think most Jets fans have really, really loved it. But I know I loved it, and I'm much happier with that than a corner. especially when we got some kind of appealing corners later in the draft that, who knows, maybe one of them will win the job in camp and surprise us. But now we got hopefully that left side, if nothing changes, like we talked about earlier, locked up for a long time. And I think that's the most important thing here, rather than worrying about, a running back at that point in the draft, or a cornerback, or even an edge rusher when we already signed Carl Lawson. So, yeah, I think it was the smart pick.
Do you feel that it's quite a like a Robert Saleh kind of pick? It's like he wants them sort of like for the defense in San Francisco. He wanted them aggressive defenders. Do you feel like it's the typical kind of guy that he would want to bring in as a first round pick as well?
Well, I mean, I think obviously he's a defensive guy, Saleh, but I think he is happy to basically take that load. Like, I can fix the defense. I don't need you to spend the first round pick on defense. I got this sort of mindset. So I do think that did go into it. Obviously, they got him Carl Lawson, and they made some big moves on defense. Sheldon Rankins coming in, and a bunch of the later, basically like every later draft pick was defense after Michael Carter, I think. So, yeah, all straight defense after Michael Carter. So, I'm not saying they didn't help Saleh at all, but I do think there was a sense of, let's get this offense figured out. This has been our deficiency for years, under Adam Gase, under some of these Todd Bowles, some of the previous coaching staffs. This offense has been the thing holding us back. So, I'm pretty sure Saleh is just okay to be like, yeah, get that figured out, and yeah, I'll handle the defense. Don't worry about that. So I think he was on board with it.
We talked about last time in the Zach Wilson video about how the Jets seem to have a plan now, how they seem to have something going on. They seem to be having a culture change there where there is more direction, more positivity. Bringing in Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas having really good draft, the picks being very smart. Did you like it? It sort of lines in with the idea that we have a plan sort of thing going on. Do you like that they went and drafted out their quarterback for the future and then immediately went, right, we need to protect him straight away? It wasn't, no, we need to go get him a weapon, or we need to go and get a defensive guy, like you said about Robert Saleh saying, I can fix that. I'm a defensive-minded guy and I've worked wonders elsewhere. But so were you impressed that they went, right, we've got our QB, now let's protect him? Because, again, it's not exactly been the MO of the Jets in a lot of years gone by. And is that the culture change that it is going to be more apparent now with the Jets?
Yeah, there's a clear culture change. I said it in an article the other day when I think it was an article about Joe Douglas. He was doing an interview with Chris Long on a podcast. And, I basically said in the article, if you don't think there's a culture change going on, you're not paying attention. And that's pretty much the best way to put it. Everything we've seen is just different from what we're used to. Drafting linemen is one thing that's different, yes, but it's not just that. It's mentality on the team. It's players showing up at OTAs when they don't have to. It's, the stuff people are saying in interviews, players are saying in interviews, and it's just the excitement, that you feel with it. And that's not necessarily, a Zach Wilson thing or an Alijah Vera-Tucker thing or just one player or one person. I think it's like a group kind of vibe that's going on right now. People are really amped about more. They're amped about Michael Carter, and they're just amped about the Jets in general. For our fan base, I know there's probably still plenty of people out there that are still thinking of the Jets as the same old Jets, but I think they're going to surprise some people. I think it will be comparative to kind of similar to the Miami Dolphins last year, or even the year before, where Flores came in and he kind of just brought that intensity and got some guys to make plays that we didn't really think would make plays. So Saleh's got that similar personality as Brian Flores, and I just do see a lot of comparisons there. And I do think the Jets, tough division, obviously, but they'll surprise people. If they lose, they'll lose fighting. They're not going to lose by 40 points like we saw, under Gase, just team quitting. Like, they're going to lose. They're going to punch you in the mouth before they go down. That's for sure.
I imagine it must just be great to have a bit of excitement around the team. I mean, during this, this period, like you said, with Adam Gase, Todd Bowles, it kind of hasn't really been there. So it's probably just great to have that excitement there and to, feel like there's a plan and that you're moving ahead and that things can happen in the future.
Oh, 100%. And, I credit that a lot to Joe Douglas because he comes from a championship culture. He's not, he wasn't the GM, but he's been a part of 3 Super Bowl franchises, twice with the Ravens, once with the Eagles. And with the Eagles, he was very heavily involved in, most of the decisions that were made. So this is a guy that knows how to win. He knows how to build it the right way. And yes, his first kind of year and a half on the job was bad, but I think a lot of that was because he didn't have full control yet, really, until Adam Gase was fired. So, for the people that are saying, "Oh, wait, how come he didn't do good last year if he's such a good GM?" Well, look at their last, 6, 7 drafts, and you'll realize he basically had to tear this whole thing up and start from scratch because they left him no young prospects, no players that really had much going for them outside of maybe Marcus May, Quinnen Williams, and 1 or 2 other guys. So he basically had to just redo this thing all from scratch. And within a short amount of time, you can see his strategy is paying dividends.
I've also seen today that Jamison Crowder is he revamped his contract and re-signed, or is it just a structural change as well?
No. So, I mean, some people are reporting it in a weird way, saying like he's back with the Jets for 2021. Really, what the deal was, they wanted him to take a pay cut. So they wanted him to take, at the time it was reported, a 50% pay cut from $11 million down to something like, 5 or so million, 5.5 maybe. To this point, unless it just got released recently, I haven't seen the exact details of how much of a pay cut he took. I don't think they released that yet. But he still has 1 year left on his deal. And basically, instead of basically getting cut and becoming a free agent, he elected to take that pay cut. So it's a restructuring, to answer your question. And for now, he is a Jet. I still am not 100% sure if that's going to last all the way through 2021. I love Crowder, so part of me hopes, he does stay because it would be nice to have him, another weapon for Zach Wilson. Injuries happen and all that. But I'm still not 100% convinced. Part of that restructuring meant that he's now basically an asset on the trade market. So they couldn't trade him when his contract was $11 million because nobody wanted to take that on for a slot receiver. But now, if he's worth $5.5 million, they possibly could trade him. And I wouldn't expect that to happen like next week or anything like that. But if the offseason progresses and you see them have a clear, okay, we got Elijah Moore who's doing great. We have Denzel Mims healthy. We have Keelan Cole and Braxton Berrios and a couple of these
Corey Davis as well.
Yeah, Corey Davis, obviously, yeah. And a couple of these other pieces that could maybe fill in for a guy like Crowder doing well. I do think you could still see him get traded. Even a lot of Jets fans probably don't want to hear that, but I think it's a possibility. So it's just something to watch out for. He could also stay with the Jets for another year, and that's kind of what Salah's been saying, that he's going to be with the Jets, but coaches say that a lot, and then things change.
I was going to take a very positive spin and go, well, he must believe in the future because he's taking a pay cut, which is very team friendly. It means that he probably wants to be there because he could have just said no. And then, but then this frees him up to be but then with the trade spin on it, because Crowder would have a market, I would imagine. I think he would anyway. It only takes 1 or 2 wide receivers to go down in the league. I mean, Green Bay could do with him. Anyone else.
Oh yeah, actually, Green Bay is one of the teams that I think that we've been kind of circling as an option in that sense. But yeah, no, I don't want to make it seem like he doesn't want to be here. I do think Crowder is excited and wants to be here, and he was actually just speaking to the media just before we hopped on this podcast. So I got to double back and see if he said anything of note. But I do think he wants to be here, but the real fact of the matter is he didn't really have leverage in that situation. Joe Douglas had all the leverage. So it was either, become a free agent really late in the window when a lot of teams are already kind of settled into OTAs and are done with OTAs even and settled into minicamp, and maybe get even less money on the free agent market. Who knows what he would have gotten? Maybe less than $5 million. So I think for him, he thought of it as this is my best option.
I think there'll be a lot of teams after him. I mean, he is a really good slot receiver, so you could say. One thing I did want to ask you has there been any talk about bringing in a backup quarterback, like anyone to just sit behind Wilson? Fancy a bit of Minshew mania or something like that?
I'd love that. I'd love some Minshew mania, man. Him in the locker room, was he with his jockstrap on and all that?
He's got rid of the mullet though now. He's not so 80s looking or 70s looking, I suppose.
Man, that's a shame. But I hope he still has that trailer. I think he was taking a trailer around the States for a little bit.
Yeah.
But no, there's the backup QB talk is rampant. It's like every day in terms of the media and the fan base. Most people, like some of the beat reporters, are literally just tweeting like, we don't know how there's not a backup quarterback on this roster right now with the way these two guys are playing, and just tweeting pretty blunt, like kind of disrespectful things towards Mike White and James Morgan, who are the two backup QBs. So the only people that aren't talking about it really is, the coaching staff and Joe Douglas. But every time they're asked about it, they kind of brush it off as we're giving these guys reps for now, and we're going to see how they learn the system. And, if it doesn't work out, we'll revisit that later on. But obviously most fans are saying to themselves, we don't have many options out there left in terms of backup QBs. So we can't wait forever because if we wait forever, we're going to miss out on everyone. Pretty much what we assume, me and my partner at Heavy on Jets, what we assume is that Nick Foles will end up being our backup QB, just because he's got that connection to Joe Douglas from the Eagles. And basically, they're just kind of waiting for the Bears to either release him and take some huge cap loss, or offer us some trade where they basically pay half his contract or something along those lines. Because we're not paying the deal that he's currently has. But, if we get him on a bargain, I'm kind of leaning towards that's who's going to be the backup. Although Minshew would be fun, I can't lie. Minshew would be fun.
Well, Foles or Minshew, I mean, you could learn a lot. Zach Wilson could learn a lot off the both of them. Mike, thank you for joining us once again. Really appreciate you coming on. Where can we find all your stuff on social media and all your stuff with Heavy.com, with Heavy on the Jets and on King Fantasy Sports as well?
Yeah, so it's super easy for Heavy on Jets. If you have Facebook, if you're on Facebook, go to Heavy on Jets. Just type that into the top of the Facebook search bar. If you type Heavy on Jets, heavy.com into Google, you'll find our page and you'll find daily content on the Jets. We write 4 articles a day. We're dropping content left and right, premium stuff, not just, clickbait stuff, good, well-written stuff. So definitely do that if you're a Jets fan. For me personally, my new Twitter handle, you can see it on the page right here, Obermuller NYJ. That's my brand new handle for just only Jets stuff. You only see me talking Jets on there. And then I still do work with King Fantasy Sports. So, get at them on Twitter. Rich King is doing some big things in the fantasy football world, but that's pretty much it for me.
Smashing, my man. Well, thank you for coming on with us again for the Alijah Vera-Tucker video here, as well as the Zach Wilson one. We're looking forward to this video getting lots of views, as well as the Zach Wilson one carried on getting views. We did say we thank you for being so good in that last video. However, you did say that maybe it was Zach Wilson that helped you along the way. So we'd like to thank Zach Wilson for also helping this podcast as well. And thank you, Zach. Amen, Zach. Hopefully we can get you on in the season as well. But until then, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for watching our live video as well. Nearly up to 2,000 views on our first live video we did just the other week. Carrying on doing these great videos. We've got some more live videos to come. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week and we'll see you all very soon.